After completing this lesson, you'll be able to use the Combine tools to refine a component shape and add freeform features to define the rear wing. For this lesson, I'll use the New Design from File tool to open the F1 Car Nearly Complete file. I'll save the file to my project, and the next thing I'll do is create a new component. By coming to the Assemble panel, I'll create a new component called Rear Wing. There's a sketch that's visible showing the outlines of what will be the rear wing, but these sketches were defined under the car body component. Both the rear wing support sketch and the rear wing profile sketch, which shows the shape of the rear wing. I would prefer to have those sketches in the rear wing, so I'll select them and simply drag them into the rear wing. You see they're automatically added to the timeline, and now instead of the sketch being faded, it's fully visible. One thing I want to do is double check the sketch dimensions. So rather than just editing the sketch, I can right click and say Show Dimensions. I can see the rectangular outline is the size of the standard material block, including the relief at the bottom. I can see the 18mm diameter of the CO2 cartridge hole, and I see my sketch elements. The first thing I'll do is extrude out the rear support. I'll start the Extrude tool and select the profiles that I'll use to define the basic shape. Extruding them out, 30mm. In this case, the value will be -30. You can see that while it looks pretty good, it's not following the contour of the body. To remedy this, I'll use the Combine tool to redefine the outer shape of the geometry based on the shape of the car body. I'll select the target body as the rear wing support body and the tool body as the car body. By default, it will expect me to join them, but the operation that I want is to intersect, so it will define the new shape as a combination of those shapes. Doing this, however, will delete that car body shape, and I don't want that. Having Keep Tool selected will allow me to keep that body in the car body component while still using it to refine the shape of my rear wing support. I'll click OK, and it will update the shape of the body. Now it flows perfectly in with the rest of the contours. Next, I'll turn on the rear wing profile sketch so that I can extrude it. There are some critical dimensions in this sketch as well. Looking at them, you'll see that a driven dimension, which is a dimension that will respond to changes in the sketch rather than driving the changes in the sketch, has been added to make sure the minimum clearance of the road should have no trouble, the overall length of the wing, and the thickness of the wing are within specification. Since we want a great deal of flexibility in modifying the shape of the rear wing, we won't extrude that using a solid model. We'll start a new form, and, like we did for the top of the car body, use the Extrude tool. Selecting that shape, roughing the distance in, making sure it's symmetric about the mid-plane. We can add some additional faces to give us options for making modifications. Instead of entering a value for the length of the wing, I'll drag it and then select the outside of the front wing to make sure they're the same. You could always hold it back or set it to whatever length you like. Then I'll click New Body. With this basic profile set in place, we'll engage Symmetry, and then we can use Edit Form to make any changes we want. Previously, I've double-clicked on edges to select all of the tangent edges. You can do a similar function to faces by selecting a face and then holding Shift while double-clicking an adjacent face. As you can see, it will select the symmetrical face on the other side, and we can get a better idea of the edit that we're making as we make it by using the View Cube effectively. A lot can be done with a freeform model when it comes to using edges. To smooth out the transition, for example, we can select these edges and simply delete them, and it will smooth that entire transition. If we want to add some sharpness back into it or make modifications later, we can always go to Modify and use Insert Edge and restore those edges or add additional edges. When I'm done, I'll finish the form, and once again use the Patch workspace and the Patch tool to add caps to the ends of this open body. Then stitch it together. Now what we have are two solid bodies inside of our rear wing component. We really only need one, especially since we still need to make sure that we have clearance for the CO2 cartridge. So I'll go back to the model workspace, use the Combine tool, make sure that I'm selecting the right body, then I'll select the wing, and I don't want to intersect them, I want to join them. Now that they've been joined, we have a solid model for the back, but we need that clearance. So we'll turn on the wing support sketch. I'll shortcut by using Press Pull. Select the profile that I want, and then extrude it all the way through the model. When I do this, you can see that it's opening up the front of the car body. I don't want that, so there are two ways to avoid this. One is before creating the extrusion, turn off the car body or any other components it would intersect with. The other option is to expand the objects to cut at the bottom of the dialog and deselect anything you don't want removed. In this dialog, it's showing me that there are two bodies in the rear wing. I accidentally left the Keep Tools when I did that combine. So let's go ahead and cancel this for now. Go back to the Combine feature and deselect Keep Tools. When I click OK and start my extrusion again, cutting it through everything, I now only have the one car body component and the one rear wing component to cut. I'll deselect the car body and click OK. Now I have the rear wing perfectly defined, as I'll need to be able to 3D print it in the future. I'll save this work and be ready for the next lesson.